When you're new to stock investing, it's easy to make some mistakes that you don't even realize you're doing it. Sometimes they're massive mistakes and can lose you lots of money in a way that you're supposed to make money, right? Stocks are supposed to build value, not destroy it. So today we're going to be looking at some ways that people early on often make that will lead to failure, right? So the first one being is investing in stocks that are not profitable, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with investing in stocks that aren't profitable. However, there's two main things that aren't good for that, especially for new people, right? One is they take a lot more research to understand the company, right? Because normally there's something called a PE ratio, right? And that tells you a good indicator of is this company profitable or not. I did a whole video on PE, so if you want to check that out, the link is down in the description. You can watch that video to understand it a bit more. However, being profitable is really important because oftentimes these stocks can get inflated and many people buy into it not necessarily knowing it, right? Because oftentimes stocks do well off of, oh, they're making more money, they're bringing in more profit, therefore it goes up. And even then, sometimes that can go down. But however, it can really be nasty. I use NIO for an example. A lot of stocks had this in 2021. This was just one I saw at the top of my head. A lot of stocks some were making profit during COVID, like inflated, like Amazon was inflated for a little bit. Obviously, it's back up again. But certainly stocks that do not have any profit, they were inflated heavily, and it wasn't easy to see that. So something like understanding profitability and PE ratio can help you avoid something like that, right? Another one I see is people also don't invest in companies that have a track record of success, right? You don't have to just buy stocks that are always up, right? Like something like CT Group, if you want the dividend, I actually think it's not a terrible play, right? Since 2009, it was at 40-ish, it hit 15. Today it's at 69 and it pays a decent dividend. So that isn't necessarily a bad stock. So you don't have to only buy stocks that are just, up a bajillion percent since they started, right? Like Apple, 180,000%. That's absurd, right? However, if you don't understand stocks as well, you're new to stock investing, it's much easier to just invest in stocks that have a history of success, a history of bringing profit in, something like even like the Mag 7. Right? Most of those companies, some of them may be a little inflated, and there's debate there, right? I'm not arguing that. However, stocks that have a consistent track record of going up are much better. You're much less likely to lose. Now, what people don't understand, something like NIO, right? It's not necessarily a bad investment if you understand the business well. Like something like Intel, right? If they turn it around, it's going to go up a lot. However, there is a large chance that they don't, right? And understanding that, it's just a lot harder for new investors to wrap their head around, like, okay, this can go up a lot, but it's probably going to go down, at least in the short term. Like you may run sideways on Intel, something like that, right? And another one, I know I talked about it earlier, is PE. PE is so important, but it's not just about having the lowest PE possible, right? Lower means cheaper, generally higher means worse. It's more expensive. However, like I mentioned, sometimes those stocks that aren't necessarily doing well will have a low PE if they're profitable. But oftentimes if it's below 10, not always, but oftentimes if it's below 10 and the share price hasn't gone up, it's often because people expect this company to do poorly. The earnings say, hey, we're going to do bad next year, something like that. And you may just think, this is cheap. I better buy it because this is cheaper compared to the other ones. It doesn't necessarily mean that either. So understanding PE in depth, both for, having it when it's so it's an actual profitable company, but also understanding what the PE says. How is it similar to, do certain sectors have certain PE, like the banking industry? Almost all of those are below 20 if they're large institutions. So you may say, oh, this is at 15 PE, it's super cheap, but actually that's just how those stocks trade, right? So understanding PE, look at like 100 different companies' PE and try to figure out why it is there, right? And another mistake people will make, I often see, is over leverage, right? I've seen stories on the internet of not fun. I don't have any reason to believe they're making them up. They seem genuine where people are way over leveraged in a stock that goes down. Maybe something like an NIO. I know most recently SMCI had a lot of that. it's made a lot of money for a lot of people, and a lot of people bought at the top and just got obliterated. And if you are over leveraged, what that means is if you have too much of your portfolio in a one specific stock, right? There is some companies I absolutely believe in. For example, TSM. It's my favorite company. I love it. I've done very well on it, and it's my largest in my portfolio, and quite substantially. However, it doesn't make up a super large percentage of my portfolio in the sense that if it disappeared tomorrow, it blew up, my life doesn't necessarily change all that much, even though it's my number one stock, my number one holding, because I'm diversified enough into other stocks. Now, if your portfolio is less than 5,000, maybe you're just new to, like really new, like, hey, I only have this amount of capital, it's understandable that maybe you have that 5,000 and only 2 or 3 stocks, right? However, once you get over 10,000, over 20,000, over 50,000, right? And certainly if this is retirement money, I personally believe in index funds for retirement and more single stock investing on the side. That's what I personally do. However, I understand that's not for everyone. However, you should not have too much of your portfolio in one stock, right? Like over 10% is very, very, very extreme, even if you believe in the company, because they could be cooking the books. Anything could be happening. And stocks like ANET, right? I have this one up. It's a high PE stock, but I think it's going to do well. It's clearly done very well. There's nothing wrong with owning this stock, right? But you should ideally, like I said, this is what I would do. I'm not telling you what to do, but what people often make, they're too much in one stock or they're too much in one industry, right? Like I like stocks that are high growth, high PE. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. However, if you own your entire portfolio is 10 stocks that have a PE of 50 or above and are all high growth, if there's a recession, those stocks are going to get obliterated even more so than the rest of the market, right? If you have some dividend stocks or like some Procter and Gamble that holds up well during a recession, even though you're not going to be doing as good on that money, you could, do whatever you want with it, right? That's liquid money. So either you could put it back into those tech stocks, right? Or whatever you want with it, right? But oftentimes people are just far too in on either one sector or one specifically one stock, right? That's really when it gets rough. But diversification in general is so important. Obviously, the smaller your portfolio and the longer your time horizon, you can get a little bit more risky with it. However, usually anything, if we're talking over $10,000, or let's say $20,000, if you're more than like 15 to 10% in one specific stock, that's really getting on the risky side. It really is, because you don't know what can happen. So we see stocks like SMCI and Enron and things like that have happened, and it does happen. So, and it's a small likelihood, but if you do have that happen to you, you don't want to lose, not everything, but even just huge percentages, right? So the reason I have NIO, I did a video, it was actually my 3rd video ever, and there was some people in the comments saying stuff like, you're dumb or whatever. Basically, it went on this run recently, right, in the last month. So I made the video right about here, and I said, as a long-term hold, I don't like it because I think it's too risky. And at least so far, it looks like I was kind of right. However, as a long-term, who knows? But NIO isn't necessarily terrible either, but you have to understand the risks that A, it's a Chinese company, B, it's not profitable, and C, it's in a very competitive industry. And if you still like it, you can decide to do it. But this is one where you can really get caught up in, certainly around this time, right? It's not profitable. All these things going against it. So this is kind of the poster child for this video, I guess. But anyways, I know all of that was kind of broad. I plan to make videos going into more depth in all the specific ones. I already did one on PE, like I mentioned. However, I cover all sorts of stocks on this channel. And if you have any quick questions in the comment section, I can go into anything that you want, as long as it's not crazy detail. But anyways, I appreciate all of you for watching. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate if you left a like or subscribe. I've noticed when anyone subscribes recently, YouTube really starts recommending my content out more. It's the algorithm pushes it. YouTube's like, oh wait, people enjoy this. So I'd appreciate it if you do enjoy my content, if you hit that subscribe button. But anyways, I appreciate all of you watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.